I've been very vocal about this, and I'm assuming we're about to get into a debate. Sam Hartman, the Wake Forest quarterback, said a while back that he doesn't plan on coming back to Wake Forest. He plans on moving on. As soon as he goes in the portal, you got guys like Pete Thamel saying that he's training to go to Notre Dame. We think he's going there. Joe, I have a problem with that. Okay, let me tell you what I have a problem with. Number one, I have a problem with if I'm a teammate of Sam Hartman, bro, leave. If you're going to say you're not going to be here next year and you're going to go somewhere else and you're already shopping yourself, leave. Number two, let's not act as if that Notre Dame has not been tampering with him, because by the letter of the law, you cannot contact directly or indirectly. Now, I pulled up the bylaws and tweeted them out. Directly or indirectly with anybody on another college team. You just can't do it. Okay? With that being said, it's tampering. Now, do I care that he's going to Notre Dame? No. Do I care, is it a good pickup for them? Yes. I'm not losing sleep over this. But at the same time, let's not act as if that this isn't blatant tampering. Okay? Because it is.
I agree with you on the tampering sign that I think that it is completely overrunning college football. The stuff that happened with Drake May was ridiculous. What happened with Jordan Addison was ridiculous. The recruitment of him while he was still at Pitt to get him to go to Texas or USC was a huge blemish on the game of college football. Absolutely is. It is so negative for the future of this sport. I even had on one of my shows Tucker Kraft, who's going to be a high draft pick from South Dakota State that he was tampered with, and he was offered a lot of money by SEC schools to leave and come play for those programs.
Interesting, huh?
I think it's terrible for the sport, and everyone's doing it. It's rampant. I'm willing to bet that LSU is probably doing it. Everyone across the sport.
And listen, you're right. Everybody's doing it. I'm not. But continue. I'm not saying they're not.
In this circumstance, though, this is a different circumstance than the typical tampering situation. I know by the letter of the law.
How do we know that?
Because he publicly stated, "I am leaving."
Why did he publicly state it?
Because he's a graduate transfer.
It was because he was asked, and Wake Forest media had been buzz around Wake Forest that he was being tampered with, and they asked him if he was coming back to Wake Forest next year. The only reason they asked him was because they knew that Notre Dame was tampering with him.
But he still made it public that he wasn't coming back. But he's also a graduate transfer. It's different.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Joe,
yes,
you can graduate in 3 years in college football more than you can anywhere else. You know why? Because kids take summer school. They are students year round.
Yeah.
Bullshit. He got tampered with, and I talked to 3 guys that cover Wake Forest. 3. All of them said that the reason that Sam Hartman was asked if he was going to be here next year is because they had heard Notre Dame was tampering with him. So let's not act as if that Notre Dame was just sitting there all foolishly saying, "Oh, well, after the fact he said he wasn't coming back."
I'm not saying that they're like, "Oh, well, he wants to come to Notre Dame." That's such a coincidence. I'm not saying that that's what happened here. They definitely had conversations with him. I know of another quarterback from another program that Notre Dame had conversations with that is now in the NFL, and I will tell you, I can't. I'm not gonna say. I can't say it on here. I will tell you after.
Be a Rudy Poo.
No. I can't lose the credibility of this person. I just can't, because he gives me a lot of really good information. I can't do that. But he's a graduate transfer. This is a different circumstance. It's not like he's a freshman that had a really good season. It's not like it's Drake May.
Does he have the ability to come back? Yes or no?
Yes, he does theoretically, and he graduate transfer. But before the transfer portal, before all this money was being thrown around, guys used to graduate transfer all the time, and those conversations need to have been had with schools with games going on. Like the timeline of entering the portal. He was
asked the week that they were playing Clemson.
I'm trying to think when that was. Wait. That early on in the season, there was speculation that he was being tampered with.
That's when he was asked. If he was asked 8 weeks ago, in the early part of October. Shit, if I'm not mistaken, they were playing Clemson.
Wait, but him being asked that question that early on in the season, at that time, a lot of people believed that Sam Hartman was entering the NFL draft.
And they asked him if he was coming back, and he said, no, I will be looking elsewhere. He didn't declare for the NFL draft.
Right, so it's vague in the sense where he's saying, I'm either going to the NFL or I'm going to another school.
No. He made it known.
He said, I'm transferring to another school.
He said, I will be going somewhere else next year in the spirit of that he's not coming back, that he's going elsewhere. He didn't talk about the draft. Okay.
But did he specifically say, I am transferring to another school?
No,
when I read the quote, it seemed vague.
He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to, Joe. My point is you cannot tell me that you don't like Tampa. Do you really believe? And let's take Notre Dame out of this for just a minute, because I know that you love them, the Fighting Irish, which I do. I did read something this week that I thought was really interesting, how they got the name Fighting Irish. We'll talk about that in just a minute. I thought that was really interesting.
I do know the backstory on that.
So, however, let's not act as if when Taylor Buckner went down, they didn't communicate with him. I will also tell you this. I know for a fact of an SEC school contacting 3 receivers from another SEC school saying that you need to come play here. Tampering is tampering. Bro, let me tell you something, and why the NBA, NFL, and all these other teams, I think, do it the right way. Magic Johnson was getting coffee at a Starbucks and saw Paul George, okay, and told Paul George what's up, and they got a photo of them talking. Okay, both of them had the recollection. The NBA got the cameras of them just saying, hey, what's going on? Good to see you, hug. They walk out. They hit Magic with a $500,000 fine. Okay, let's not act as if you really. Why is the Wake Forest media asking him if he's being tampered with? If they don't know, like, they knew something was up. My whole point in all this is, look. Let's take Sam Hartman out of it for just a minute and Notre Dame out of it.
Yeah.
The NCAA's got to do something to stop this.
I agree.
I think the problem that I have is it's just so blatantly obvious right now that that Notre Dame did it. That at what point are you just going to sit here like you're turning a blind eye? Or bring your graduate transfer. I don't give 2 Rudy Poos and 2 Fs what the fuck he is. My point is, if you're going to have a line in the sand and say you can't break this rule, Joe, one of the biggest media members came out and said that Notre Dame had already talked to him indirectly. The bylaws say that you can't do that. They don't say, well, if you're a graduate transfer, bullshit.
Look, I agree that something needs to be done to properly regulate this and prevent it from happening. But if there are regulations and rules put in place, it's distinctly different for graduate transfers. He's not part of this too. For Hartman's sake, is he's a smart kid. He went to Wake Forest, which is a really hard school to get into. Like a guy like that to process and to apply for a transfer to get into a school like Notre Dame, you have to do it ahead of time with a certain amount of time. And I'm sure that his outlook is not on, I'm going to have a long NFL career because
and enter the portal.
But why would he enter the portal? He's not going to enter the portal in week 2 against Clemson. He's not going to enter the portal before the bowl game because he wants to finish the season with his guys. There's nothing wrong with that. He wants to stand with his teammates.
Then it's his fault for saying that he was leaving.
He said he was leaving, and that effectively makes him open game.
He should have never said it then.
Also, we don't know the extent of the conversations that he had with Notre Dame leading up to that. It could have just been Tommy Rees saying, like, hey, Sam, how's it going? Like you're talking about here with that. Hey, Sam, but you're playing really great this season.
I wasn't born last night. Tommy Rees is a sleazebag if he did it.
He probably was Tommy Rees, if we're being completely honest.
Or Brian Driscoll. Either way. I
didn't realize what you just stuck in there.
I just don't like the fact that it's so blatant and obvious.
Okay. That's fair. I think something needs to be changed. And the problem is that we can sit here and argue about it, but the problem is that we don't have any rules to point to, really. Like what you're talking about, those bylaws are so vague and they're so poorly written, and they're not
vague. They're not vague,
but they're not enforced is the big problem. So it's like, what's the point of us sitting here arguing like, well, by the ruling of these words, you can't do this, but there's no enforcement.
They're not enforcement. That's the problem. You know why the NCAA sucks ass? This is why they suck on their mama's tit. Okay, is because, like, so for an example, like you can go into basketball, like the IARP, Kansas hasn't been popped. Arizona barely got popped. Memphis didn't get popped. LSU doesn't have a verdict. Joe, they have been so bad at enforcing rules and then penalizing people who, like, you know, how many times do we have to come in here and talk about the NCAA not giving a waiver to a kid whose parents are sick and wants to transfer closer to home? But yet you have a rule that's blatant and obvious that states, and I'm quoting, I read this 1,000 times, you cannot have contact, meaning you or directly or indirectly, with anybody enrolled in another school, university, or program. That is the rule. That's the rule. They broke it. You know it, and I know it. If he's going to go into the portal and he's going to have conversations, then they need to do something else for graduate transfers. It's like the old saying goes, just because it's right doesn't make it legal. Okay? What was prohibition? Okay? Prohibition was wrong. It was still illegal.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm getting accused in the chat here of saying that because it's Notre Dame, I'm defending them. I'm not. It is a unique circumstance. It is a different circumstance because of where he sits in his timeline of playing. This is his 6th year. It's his 6th year of playing college football. Like, it's not.
I have a problem. Let me tell you what else I have a problem with.
Yeah.
I have a problem with DeLeone being announced as the next Colorado head coach and saying that his son's the next quarterback. I have a problem with it.
That I admit I don't have a problem with that. Because it's expected. It's his son. He can't not tamper with his son. And you also can't.
You're right.
Even if there was heavy regulation in place, you also can't regulate that, because if you're sitting at dinner.
I think it's his son. But at the same time, if Brian Kelly, Nick Saban, Jimbo Fisher, Kirby Smart, Ryan Day, if they looked at another kid and said, that's my quarterback and he's on another program, what you going to do?
But if it's their son, it's a little bit different.
I understand that. But where do you draw the line?
I draw the line there as long as it's not your kid.
I agree with you. Let's get to
that was a stupid answer, but
it was a stupid question.